Sitting in the crowded New York airport wasn't the most pleasant way to spend an evening, I thought, watching the boarding process for what I hoped would be my flight home to Charlotte. I, along with my two sisters, owned a small pharmaceutical company created by our father several decades earlier. Dad had developed a series of valuable but rarely used drugs that made the company profitable but never offered much room for growth. My parents had passed away, and I'd spent the last few days in New York negotiating the sale of the company to a major pharmaceutical concern. My team of lawyers and brokers closed the deal today and left it to the lawyers to complete the paperwork. I hoped to make it home tonight, but it looked doubtful. The last flight of the day to Charlotte was fully booked, and I was third on the wait list. I didn't call my wife, Lisa, because I didn't know what to tell her. I sat at the bar where I could watch the gate and drank my second gin and tonic, thinking about the deal and the money my sisters and I would share, something over $10 million for me, plus a well-compensated transition period with Big Pharma meant a new lifestyle for Lisa and me. Our twin girls were already out of the nest, or at least on their way. Both were in college, juniors at Duke, where tuition was eating me alive. But all this would change when the deal with the pharmaceutical company closed. Meanwhile, the boarding process was ending, and the agents at the gate were ushering the last passengers onto the plane. Then a small miracle happened. The boarding sign changed, and I saw that my name appeared on the waiting list. I threw money on the bar, waved to the bartender who gave me a thumbs up, grabbed my briefcase and duffel bag, and ran for the exit. The agent at the gate handed me my boarding pass and quickly explained that a group of 4 who had checked in remotely had not shown up, so they were giving their seats away. I ran down the plane with my new buddies, and when I got to the gate, I realized I had a first-class seat. A good sign, I thought. I got on the flight. I'm sitting in first class. Home a day early, this may mean that the pharmaceutical deal will indeed close. The boarding door closed as I boarded, and the flight attendant asked if I wanted something to drink as we taxied to the runway. I felt like I'd earned another drink, so I drank another gin and tonic and then fell asleep, dreaming of a future for Lisa and me with enough money to always fly first class. The shock of landing woke me up. I eventually made it to the taxi stand to take a cab home. I'd driven my pickup truck to the airport a few days earlier, but now I was exhausted, a little drunk, and it was really too late to call Lisa to come get me. We lived a few miles outside of Charlotte, so the cab ride was long enough for me to fall asleep again. The driver had to wake me up when we arrived. I paid him, added a generous tip, and a little sluggishly got out of the taxi. It had been a long, busy day and evening. I was already thinking about getting cozy in bed with Lisa when the taxi pulled away and I turned towards the house. What I saw stopped me in my tracks and woke me up completely. A gold Mercedes was parked in the driveway in front of my side of the garage. The car seemed like a very fashionable Mercedes, but then all Mercedes seemed fashionable to me. The house was dark by then, it was past midnight, and I just stood there for several minutes. I'd spoken to Lisa from my lawyer's office around noon, and she said nothing about late-night visitors. I tried not to think about the unthinkable, tried to create a happy scenario that would allow me to snuggle up to warm, sleepy Lisa in just a few minutes. However, my mind didn't work that way, so I slowly walked towards the door in the passage between the garage and the house. I unlocked it, entered the quiet house, and walked even more slowly through the kitchen and up the stairs to our bedroom. The bedroom door was open, apparently not expecting visitors, and I stepped inside. And then it closed. There was no other way to express it. My brain stopped working. I stopped breathing. Even my heart seemed to stop beating. I saw what I considered unthinkable. Lisa slept naked, spread out on her side of the bed, with one arm wrapped around a man who was also sleeping, even smiling slightly in his sleep. I stood there for what seemed like an eternity, but eventually my brain started working again. I looked again at Lisa's hand lying across the man and they both snored. This broke my heart. Until tonight, I'd enjoyed listening to Lisa snore. She was snoring quietly, almost purring, I thought. I thought her snoring meant she felt absolutely safe, deep in the peaceful sleep that came from sharing a bed and life with me. I often fell asleep with that soft purring sound in my ears. But that was all over now. I would never hear that snoring again, never sleep next to her again. Even with my heart broken, I began to think again. I saw the man's clothes neatly folded, lying on the chair that I'd sat on hundreds of times. Smoldering rage began to flare up inside me. I pulled up my pants and pulled out my wallet and car keys, then stopped to think a little more. I could get the tennis racket out of the bedroom closet and use it to beat the guy up, I decided. I could also beat Lisa. Both of these actions, while satisfying in the short term, could cause big problems for me in the long term. Another idea began to form in my mind. I took out my cell phone to take some incriminating pictures. As the idea germinated and expanded, I finished taking pictures and then collected all of his clothes and shoes. The guy was a big dude. I'm 5'10" tall and weigh about 160 pounds. He looked at least 4 or 5 inches taller and perhaps 50 pounds heavier. A tennis racket might not have been a good idea, even in the short term. Taking his clothes and shoes in my hands, I took one last look at my wife, my loving, beloved wife, the mother of my precious daughters, and hardened my heart against the love that had fueled me for more than 20 years. I left the bedroom, still without tears, and headed back down the stairs to the outside. The key fob beeped, and the Mercedes doors opened. I put my briefcase and duffel bag inside and slid into the driver's seat. I'd never been a fan of fancy cars, but when I got into the Benz, I realized that I liked it. I figured out the controls, put the car in gear, and drove off. After about a mile, I pulled over and looked at the guy's wallet. The usual things: some money, business cards that identified him as Daniel Wright, a senior sales manager at a local Mercedes dealership, and a driver's license that showed a Charlotte address. If Daniel had family there, I figured I could cause some real trouble for him, and maybe Lisa too. But at the moment, I was exhausted and headed to the nearest motel to get some sleep. Lisa was a very careful person. She knew she was not as smart as her husband, but thanks to her caution, her affair with Daniel Wright lasted almost 5 months without me suspecting anything. I was still in New York, she thought as she lay in bed with Daniel the next morning. He was good in bed, maybe not as good as me, but out of bed, he could not compete with her husband. Too much like a car salesman, she thought, coming to the conclusion that it was time to end this affair. Daniel was becoming too possessive. He wanted to spend the night with her, and she allowed it, but that would be the last time she did that. She planned to spend the rest of her life with me and have a strange man in their marital bed. Even if I would never know about it, it was still too disrespectful. She would call Daniel later today and gently but sternly tell him that their affair was over. Then she headed to the shower. Back in the bedroom, she was getting dressed when Daniel returned from the shower with a towel around his waist. He stood there for a moment and then asked, "Lisa, where did you take my clothes?" "What? I didn't move anything anywhere. Where are you all going this evening? I folded it right here on this chair, but there are no clothes. Did you take them with you to the guest room? They must be here somewhere." I, he muttered, heading back down the hallway to the guest room, and then immediately returned. "No, there's nothing there. There's nothing here." His voice trailed off as he tried to comprehend the disappearance of his clothes. "Perhaps you left everything downstairs when we came in the evening?" Lisa asked a little impatiently, thinking that they had both drunk too much the night before. "No, I'm sure I didn't, but I think I'll go take a look," Daniel answered, heading out of the bedroom. He quickly returned, running up the stairs. Lisa, my car is not there. My clothes are not downstairs. Someone was here at night, took my clothes, and stole my car. Ah, damn it, what's going on?" "I'm sorry, what?" Lisa tried to comprehend what Daniel was saying. How could his clothes and car go missing? The two of them stayed in the house all night. Could someone have gotten inside? Suddenly, Lisa collapsed on the bed. It was Daniel's turn to ask, "What?" Lisa tried to formulate a response, but she found it difficult to breathe, let alone speak. "Daniel, what if it was my husband?" she finally said. "What if he came home from New York while we were sleeping? What if he took your things and your car?" "Oh shit," Daniel said, collapsing on the bed next to Lisa. "You need to find out where he is. It could be him, but if he's still in New York, that means some kind of burglar has broken in, which means we need to call the police. I have to get my things and my car back. Oh, damn this car. If we call the police, they'll want to know who owns it, and it's in my wife's name for some damn tax reason." "Okay, I'll call his office. His secretary arrives very early and she must know where he is." Lisa took out her phone and dialed my office number. Even though it was not yet 8 o'clock, my secretary answered immediately. "Max Tronder's office. May I help you? Hey Sheila, this is Lisa. I know it's very early and I'm not sure where Max is. He didn't call last night, so did you hear anything from him? Lisa, it's still early, and I know that the team in New York worked late yesterday. They'll probably start late today. I talked to Max yesterday around 6, just before I went home. He said they were making good progress and might reach a deal today. That's good to hear. So he's still in New York, right? Yes, I'm sure he is, and I expect to hear from him as soon as they all get back to the lawyer's office. Do you want me to ask him to call you? Yes, please, but only if he has time. I know how important this deal is. Well then, bye. They hung up and Lisa turned to Daniel. Max is still in New York, so we should probably call 911 and report a break-in and car theft. Lisa, what do we tell them? That your lover had his clothes stolen from your bedroom and his car stolen from your driveway? I mean, what the fuck? We're really screwed here. Okay, I understand. Let's think about it. How about I take you home and leave you there? You dress up and report the theft as if it happened there, while your wife was taking the kids to school. Maybe you don't report stolen clothing. This may be harder to explain than a stolen car. Yes, except that yesterday I told my wife that I was going to Atlanta for a meeting about the new Mercedes S-Class, and I wouldn't be home until noon. Okay, but we can wait until maybe noon when you'll be back anyway. You drove home, left your keys in the car because it was a short stop before going to the dealership, and your car was stolen while you were at home. You know, I think it might work. And I could say I left my wallet in the car, and it got stolen too. And we can hang out here for a few hours. Maybe we'll end up needing another shower. Maybe together. Lisa, okay. Yeah, I need to call work to take a sick leave. Lisa worked as a paralegal in a small law firm. The work was okay, if a bit boring. She went out into the hallway to make a call and returned to the bedroom to find Daniel back in bed. She was tempted, but after thinking about me and her recent decision to end the affair, she decided to say no. Daniel, she said without making the slightest move to take off her clothes, I think it's time to end this. We had a good run, but you know, it could have been Max last night. We're lucky it was actually a bad guy. Let's find some clothes and maybe go someplace to eat for breakfast. Daniel looked at her, thought about trying to convince her, but in the end, he realized that she was right. They were lucky, but they shouldn't push it any further. Yes, he said, and with an inner smile, he remembered that another attractive middle-aged mother often came to the car dealership. Okay, I agree it was a good run. So how about some clothes? It turned out to be not so simple. Daniel was 50 pounds heavier and 4 inches taller than me. Lisa finally found a pair of tattered old sweatpants that seemed to fit Daniel after making a few V-cuts at the waist. She then tied some strings around his waist to hold up his sweatpants. She also found a sweatshirt that had turned pink when it was sloppily washed in the washing machine. She trimmed the sleeves and cut some more at the armholes, and Daniel had his outfit. She wanted to make a comment about the clown's clothes, but she just smiled slightly when she saw his face. They decided to watch TV until it was time to go to Daniel's house. Earlier that morning, around the time Daniel discovered his clothes and car were missing, I pulled into the driveway of the address listed on Daniel's driver's license. It was a nice house with a small bicycle leaning against the wall of the garage. I sat in the car for a while thinking, wondering, but still without tears. My night at the motel passed quickly, and I didn't go out for a run until dawn. I was surprised that I didn't feel worse, perhaps I was still in shock. I walked to the front door, taking out Daniel's wallet with his driver's license, rang the bell, and a young woman who looked to be in her 20s, attractive but a little frazzled, opened the door. I was wearing a suit that I'd bought the day before in New York, a white shirt that now looked rumpled, and no tie. I didn't look my best, but I hoped I didn't look threatening. I held up Daniel's driver's license so the woman could see it and pointed at the gold Mercedes. Before I could say anything, the woman slammed the door in my face, but then opened it again a few seconds later, holding her cell phone in her hand. I have 911 on my phone, and I'm ready to press send if you don't tell me my husband is okay. Ma'am, I have a photo on my phone of your husband and my wife in bed at night, naked and fast asleep. To be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with your husband or my wife either. If you want to call 911, call 911, and I'll just wait in the car. They looked at each other for a moment until her face fell, and she opened the door to let me in. She started to say something when they both heard Mommy from the kitchen. Wait here, I'll be right back. She turned away, heading back to what I assumed was the kitchen. I heard voices, hers, and at least one of the children. She returned, handing me a cup of coffee. I hope you drink black coffee. I have to get the kids ready for school and then take them. I'm afraid I trust you more than my husband now. You can stay here until I get back and then we can talk. Fine. Okay, I answered. I'm afraid we're in the same boat. I sat down in the living room and soon a woman appeared with 2 children. She introduced me as Dad's friend and walked out the door with them. I just sat there, drank some not-so-good coffee, thought about calling my office but ended up just sitting there. When the woman returned, she silently ran up the stairs to the living room. A few minutes later, she came back down looking better, with her hair combed and her lips a little tinted. She extended her hand to me as they shook hands. She introduced herself. Sorry for the recent commotion. I am Molly Wright, currently married to Daniel Wright, who is currently involved with the woman you are currently married to. I couldn't help but laugh at her turn of phrase, and it felt good to laugh. You are absolutely right about all the current events at the moment. My name is Jack Lawson, and my wife's current name is Lisa Lawson. I then explained what happened last night and saw Molly's tears begin to flow. I'm divorcing Lisa, and I'm sure the photographs will help me get a decent settlement. I can send them to your phone if you think you might need them. Yes, I think I should have them, Molly answered, looking at me with dead eyes. I reached for my phone but stopped when she said, Wait, don't send them to me. If I see them, I will never get those pictures out of my head. You keep them, and if I need them, I can call you. Right, of course, I said, but then added, I probably won't be at my current job for long, and I definitely won't be in my current house anymore. I will give you the contact details of my lawyer. You can always contact him if you need the photographs or any help in a divorce situation. Okay, thank you, Molly said, but then asked, What should we do right now? Are you returning the car? Are you going to wait for Daniel and try to beat him up? You've seen him. He's a pretty big guy, even though he's put on a little weight. Yesterday, he was supposed to be in Atlanta for some car meeting and stay there overnight. He should be home this afternoon. You know, I kind of like this car, and I've never driven a Mercedes before. I think I'll keep it until someone forces me to return it. Your husband and I must say, his name to me is asshole may have. Molly laughed, and then I joined in, both of us needing all the release we could find. Actually, the car is registered in my name, Molly said. For some tax reason, I think more depreciation. Daniel, or should I say, asshole, put it in my name since I drive more than he does. She paused thoughtfully, then continued. You know, since I own this car, I can issue you a permit to drive, and the cops can call me to confirm if you get pulled over. I liked the idea but didn't respond since Molly was obviously still working out the plan. And one more thing, she said. There have been a lot of break-ins in our area lately. You have Daniel's keys and clothes. If the key we're hiding in the backyard is missing when he gets here, he might try to break in. And if our security system is set to instant alert mode, he will attract interesting attention from the police. Molly, I think I'm falling in love again. You are wonderful. Okay, calm down. Daniel can just wait to come back until the kids and I get home from school this afternoon, but I can pick them up and go to the park for a while. Let's give him more time to get into even more trouble. Whatever happens, please let me know, especially if he does get into trouble with the police. And call me when you need your car back. I don't want you to get into any trouble. We're done now. You need to get out of here, and so do I. I drove off in a beautiful gold Mercedes, wondering how much the same one, only in a better color, would cost. Molly gave me the permission slip, and I assumed she would get the hidden key, set the alarm, and leave for the rest of the day. Lisa and Daniel actually arrived at Daniel's house around noon. Lisa dropped him off and quickly rushed off, as if she was trying to avoid further infection. Daniel walked to his front door, hoping that it might not be locked because Molly was home, but at the same time afraid that she might be there. Of course, it was locked, and he hurried around the house to the rock in the backyard where they kept the spare key. But the stone had disappeared. Oh shit, he muttered, looking at the back of his house, wondering if he should break in. He tried to open the back door, but it was also locked, so he decided that he really had no choice but to force his way inside. He looked at the windows along the back wall, wondering which one would be best to break. He stopped at the window into the family room. The window was the largest at the back, and breaking it would give him more room to enter the house. He broke a branch from the tree he was about to trim and examined the window. Since he was barefoot, He needed a way to get through the broken window glass, which he could break. He pulled 2 chairs from the back porch and placed them next to the window. He thought he could climb over the chairs to avoid the glass and then just be careful when he entered the living room. A few deep breaths, and he was ready to go. Daniel threw the branch through the family room window, and it shattered with a satisfying crack, followed immediately, unfortunately for Daniel, by the wailing sound of the home alarm system siren. To make things even more unfortunate, a police car just happened to be driving down his street, as Molly had called the local police station that morning to complain about potential break-ins in their area. Damn, Daniel muttered, trying to quickly climb over the chairs to get into the house and disable the damn security system, but not fast enough. Police! Stop right there and slowly walk away from the house. Raise your hands up! Daniel looked back and saw 2 policemen with pistols. He did as he was told, and only cut his legs slightly as he climbed off the chairs and backed away. Officers, I can explain, he began to say, when one of the policemen put his hands behind his back and handcuffed him. The policeman ignored his attempt to explain himself and read out his rights. The policeman then asked if he wanted to say anything. Yes, this is my house and I, don't have a key, so I broke in to get some clothes and call my office. The cops were looking at Daniel's tracksuit, perhaps thinking, clown clothes, when one of them asked him if he had any identification. No, not now. You see, I lost my car, and all my clothes and stuff, and I just need to get inside so I can get some real clothes. How did you lose your car, sir? Well, last night I stayed at a friend's house, and this morning the car, wasn't there. It just wasn't. Huh. Have you reported a mysterious disappearance? Maybe you left it in a bar somewhere. Daniel was stumped. He didn't want to reveal where he was or why he didn't report the car missing, but he also didn't want to go to jail for trying to break into his own home, and the handcuffs were really uncomfortable. Then he came up with a solution that might work. You can call my wife. She can identify me, and perhaps you could take me to my office. I can ask someone there to help me get some clothes. He knew he'd put up with a lot of crap at the dealership, but it was a lot better than going to jail. One of the cops took Molly's phone number from Daniel and went to call her. Daniel could hear the police part of the conversation. Ma'am, this is Officer Ryan from the Charlotte Police Department. We are at the address. He gave the address. And we have a man here who claims to be your husband. He tried to break into your house because he lost his clothes. And yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We will. Of course, do this. Thank you, ma'am. He turned back to Daniel. The lady says her husband is in Atlanta, and anyone who breaks into her house must be a burglar. She hopes we throw you in jail and throw away the key. But, Daniel was almost crying as the cops led him to their patrol car to take him to the station. And Lisa? She arrived at her office half a day late, but she would make up for lost time, still thinking about me since she still hadn't heard from me. She called my cell phone, but no one answered. She then called my office again. Hello, Sheila, it's Lisa again. I'm starting to get a little worried about Jack since I still haven't heard anything from him. And you? No, I have nothing new. I guess this means he's still in New York with the lawyers, but it's really not like him to not call. You do seem a little worried, so I'll call there and check on him, and either he or I will call you back in a few minutes. Fine, thank you, Sheila. You are the best secretary in the world. A few minutes later, Lisa actually received a call back. Lisa, this is Sheila. I talked to one of the secretaries at the law office and she said Jack left late yesterday, hoping to catch the last flight to Charlotte. So I called Jack on his cell phone to check on him. I did talk to him, and he asked me to tell you that he would call later. Fine, thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Lisa said, disconnected. A snake began to grow in the depths of her stomach. I hung up after talking to Sheila. I was driving the gold Mercedes to see a divorce lawyer recommended by Fred Thomas, my longtime business lawyer. I trusted my business lawyer and hoped I could trust the divorce lawyer. Mr. Lawson, please take a seat. Miss Reinhardt will be with you in a minute, the secretary told me. I sat down, somewhat reassured by the lawyer's office, no expensive furniture, but not cheap-looking either. Before I had time to worry further, a 50-year-old, somewhat plump lady with obviously dyed red hair entered the waiting room. Mr. Lawson? I stood up and nodded, and she continued. I'm Anna Reinhardt. Fred called and told me to take the best possible care of you. Let's go into my office and talk about your situation. I followed her into a nice but not luxurious office, took coffee from the secretary, and told my story. I found a cheating wife, wanted a divorce, and also wanted to protect my assets, especially the proceeds from the sale of my company and my sister's company. I skipped the part of the story that concerned the golden Mercedes, although I suspected that Anna might find it funny. "Jack, is it okay if I call you that?" I nodded and she continued. "And I'm Anna. Good news, well, relatively good news considering your situation. Fred told me that you and your sisters owned your company before you married your wife, so your shares are considered separate property. That means your wife has no rights to the shares of your company or to the proceeds of the sale, but you need to keep the shares and sale proceeds separate from any joint account you and your wife may have." "This is true, I think so. But what about our house, retirement accounts, and the like?" "Well, there's not such good news for you. Since your salary is much higher than hers, you will be paying some alimony for several years. We can probably avoid paying anything into the retirement account by increasing the amount of alimony. I know it's not attractive, but the short-term pain avoids what's usually worse, having to share your retirement money decades in the future. And your kids are in college, so no child support. I assume you don't mind being on the hook for the rest of their college expenses." "Yes, that's suitable. What about the house?" "You and your wife must decide what you want. You may decide to sell it and split the proceeds, or one of you can buy the other's portion based on the current appraised value." "After what I saw last night, I definitely don't want this house. I don't think Lisa can afford to buy my half, so I guess that means selling." "Okay, I can do the paperwork this way. The divorce petition is a pretty standard form, so I can have it ready for you tomorrow early if you'd like, so we can serve it to her tomorrow afternoon. A proposed settlement could then follow next week." "God, that's pretty fast." Mr. Lawson, Jack, listen to me. If there's a chance for you and your wife that some counseling or just a little time could— No, actually, it's just a shock for me. I mean, less than 24 hours ago, I was happy. I couldn't wait to get home to my wife and tell her the good news about the sale of the company, and now I'm sitting here talking about filing for divorce. But we must move forward. I'll figure out how to deal with this." "Okay, but if you change your mind, just call me and we can work things out." I thanked her, paid the advance, and left the office. I walked back to the gold Mercedes, wondering a bit about what was going on with that asshole I'd seen last night, and that reminded me that I had told my secretary that I would call Lisa. Lisa answered the phone in her office at the law firm where she worked. "Lisa, this is Jack. You called and looked for me." "Oh, Jack, thanks for calling. I missed you. Where are you?" "I'm here in Charlotte." When did you get back?" The snake deep in her belly raised its head. "Last night, Lisa. I came back last night." And the snake bit a little harsh. Lisa leaned back in her chair. She knew she had to carry on this conversation, but she could barely breathe, let alone speak. "Lisa, I'm hanging up now." "No, Jack, no," she managed to squeeze out. Please, can we meet somewhere? I need to see you and just see you for a few minutes." I hesitated. This woman was my love, the mother of my daughters, the most important person in my life for over 20 years. "Okay, Lisa, the Center Cafe at 6. The snake bit even harder. Lisa had to agree, but the Center Cafe was the place where she and I had met a long time ago, both of us hanging out with friends. Since then, this cafe had become a special place for us, and now she was afraid. Why had I suggested this, but she had to say yes? "Jack, I'll see you there. And please, listen, I'm sorry and I love you." I hung up. Lisa sat and cried, and the snake bit more and more. Lisa came to the cafe early. I was not there yet. She ordered a glass of wine and sat there thinking about what a terrible person she was. Her first real sexual experiences were with big, strong football players in college. She played around in high school, but it took those college football players holding her down, making her feel helpless. When I arrived, she thought she had overcome this need to feel helpless. I was everything she needed: strong in bed, loving, a great father to the girls, a good provider. That would have been enough if it weren't for the plane ride back to Charlotte from the West Coast. I was visiting some pharmaceutical company trying to sell a new drug, and she accompanied me for the weekend before my meetings began. Flying home alone on an overnight flight, she sat next to a large man, the coach of what turned out to be a local NFL team. They chatted, drank too much, and she fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. She woke up with his hand between her legs under her skirt. Now, thinking about that night, she knew she should have screamed or at least pushed his hand away. But no, Lisa didn't do that. And the feeling of guilt? She didn't remember feeling guilty, only relief that I didn't return until later that week when she and her body had recovered. The asshole had a feeling of guilt. This coach only worked in Charlotte for 1 season, and Lisa might have become a faithful wife again if he had not introduced her to a forward from the practice squad before leaving. Not a star, not even a newbie, but just as strong and dominant in bed as the coach was. Lisa was actually grateful when he was assigned elsewhere. After some time, the guilt finally surfaced. She wanted to remain faithful to me and broke up with her lover. Lisa thought she was done with her cheating by the time our girls left for college. She loved me dearly and enjoyed the extra time we had together when the girls were away. But the snake slithered in when I did something nice for her. I told her it was time for her to get a new car, a luxury car that she should choose. And unfortunately, she decided to go to the Mercedes dealership, where she met Daniel Wright. He didn't sell her a Mercedes, but he pushed all the right buttons to get her into bed. And she knew it was wrong. Wrong also because Daniel wasn't that good in bed. She had gotten away with her previous affairs and thought the marriage was intact. But now, she and I loved each other more than ever, and she wanted to be faithful. This was the right thing, and not have sex with a big idiot. Letting Daniel spend the night in his marital bed would have been a terrible mistake, even if I hadn't discovered them. But she had let him, and now she feared the terrible price she might have to pay. "Hello, Lisa." She looked up and saw me standing there. I looked much older than I did before I flew to New York, and she knew it was her fault. The snake in her stomach continued to bite. "Hi, Jack. Thank you for being here. I don't even know how to begin to say how sorry I am." "Can I ask a few questions?" I said, sitting down. "Oh, Jack, please no. If we have any chance, questions and answers will simply kill that chance. Jack, we should run away, just for a few days, to some island in the Caribbean where we can be reunited, where we can hug each other, where—" "Lisa, please, you're delusional. If you can't answer my questions, I'll get up and leave now." The snake continued to bite, but Lisa knew she had to endure the pain and let me vent the way I wanted. Maybe, just maybe, I could come out the other side of my anger to some kind of reconciliation. "Okay, Jack, ask me anything." "Do you know what time I got home last night?" Strange question, she thought. No, not really. It had to be after—" She shut up. She knew what my next question would be, and it was. "And do you know what I saw when I got home, when I went upstairs to our bedroom? Or should I say, what used to be our bedroom?" "Yes, Jack, I know what you must have seen, and I know it must have been one of the worst things you've ever seen in your entire life. And I know it's entirely my fault that you saw this, and I am begging you to please listen to me. Jack, I'm sorry, so sorry that I won't fight the divorce you want if you want." "Shut up, Lisa. Next question. How many men have there been since we got married? If you're lying, if I think you're lying, I get up and leave." Lisa's first thought was to lie. The second thought was that lying was too risky. The third thought was that the marriage was probably over anyway. 3, Jack. 3 men whom I now regret having ever met. I think I can see in your eyes that our marriage is over, and I understand it. You deserve someone better than me. I'm willing to do almost anything to give us another chance, but I understand if you don't want anything to do with me anymore. Call the lawyer, Lisa. Tomorrow you will be served with divorce papers." I got up and left. Lisa sat there too stunned to even cry at first. While she was thinking about what I had just said, the snake in her stomach bit hard, and she actually started crying. I walked out of the cafe, remembering how we first met there decades ago, and wondering if this meeting would be the last time we ever had any kind of intimate conversation. Intimacy, I thought bitterly, must be the worst kind of intimacy. Hearing your wife say that she had sex with other men, and seeing her with that asshole Daniel in our bed. In our fucking bed, sleeping, her snoring for God's sake. How am I ever going to get over this? Perhaps I could handle 3 faceless men in the 20-odd years we had been together. Just maybe, with some counseling and a lot of humiliation on her part. Maybe. But I would never get over that scene in our bed. Our marriage was over. And sitting in that damn gold Mercedes, I finally cried. At some point, I realized that it was already getting dark. I blew my nose, wiped my face, and thought about what Molly Wright had said that morning, which now seemed like a year ago. She told me not to send her pictures of her husband cheating. She felt that it would be much more difficult to forgive if she were confronted with visual evidence. I decided to call her, share this thought with her, and check the situation with the Mercedes. "Hello?" Molly answered the call. "Molly, this is Jack Lawson from this morning. I'm just calling to see how you're doing and what I should do with the car." "Jack, thank you for calling. I seem to be holding on. You can keep the car for now. Daniel is in so much trouble that he won't need it for a while." "Trouble? I hope you didn't shoot him." "No, but he might prefer that option. He got arrested for trying to break into our house and apparently took a swing at one of the cops. You know, he's a big guy, and the cop hit him with a stun gun. Then something happened while he was in jail. He doesn't want to talk about it, but I think he may have been attacked by another prisoner somehow. I wouldn't talk to him, and he ended up having to call his brother to post bail, and that means his whole family knows what's going on." "Wow, Molly. I can't say I feel sorry for him, but I feel sorry for you. What I really want to say is that you made the absolutely right decision this morning not to look at the pictures of him cheating. If you have any chance of reconciling, those photos would make it a lot harder." "Yeah, he finally came home a couple of hours ago, crying and telling me how sorry he was and begging me to let him stay, at least for now. You know we have 2 little kids, so I'm going to try to figure this out, but life won't be easy for him. His own brother, who is a lawyer, told me that I should push for a prenuptial agreement, and he said he would help with that. Besides, I'm going to be in control of our finances, at least for a while. Daniel will be on a fairly short leash, and I plan to tug his collar frequently. Keep it up, Molly. I wish you all the best, and when you need to return the car, just call me." They hung up, and I sat there somewhat jealous of Molly. Perhaps Daniel learned his lesson. Being arrested and charged with assault for trying to hit a police officer on top of what happened to him in jail may have scared him a lot. I hoped so, for the sake of Molly and their children. Finally, I drove back to the motel where I was staying. I had one more job to do before I tried to sleep call my daughters, Kate and Emma. "Hi, Daddy," it seemed to me that Kate answered. They were twins, not identical, but they might as well have been identical. They sounded alike. They went to a very expensive college together, studying the same thing, nursing. At least they didn't look exactly alike, close and obviously sisters, but not so obviously twins. I often admitted, but only to myself, that I was happy that they were not identical. They were very good at ganging up on me, and I thought it would be even worse if 2 identical young women were forcing me to buy a car, getting me to stay out late, asking for money to go to Florida for spring break, whatever the request of the day was. "Daddy, please." But I also admitted, again only to myself, that I enjoyed spoiling them. "Kate?" "Yes, you guessed correctly. Of course, there was a 50-50 chance. What's the matter?" "Listen, tomorrow is Saturday, and I would like to invite you and your sister to have breakfast. Well, let's call it brunch, maybe around 11 or so at that bistro on 4th Street we used to go to. Does that suit you?" "Wait a second," she said, and then I heard a noise. She came back and said, "Emma is fine with it too. Can we—" I quickly interrupted her because 6 or 7 of their friends were present at our last brunch. "Let's do this, just the 3 of us, okay?" "Of course," Kate replied. "But tell me what?" And again I interrupted her, not wanting to start a conversation on the phone, which was quite difficult even in person. "Listen, I need to run. See you at 11. Love you, and tell your sister I love her too. Bye." And I hung up. I hoped she wouldn't call Lisa, but I couldn't tell her that. Then she would have called Lisa immediately. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning would come quickly enough. After I left the cafe, leaving her with his warning or curse or whatever to hire a lawyer, Lisa's tears were hard to stop. She knew she had screwed up everything, her marriage, her family, her whole life. She knew that her daughters would find out, her parents would know, all her friends would know. She would probably lose me and her home. And me? Poor me, seeing her lying in their bed naked, probably with that damn Daniel who had a boner. This scene must have nearly killed me, and Lisa's tears continued. Finally, the waitress came over and asked if she needed to go to the restroom. Lisa choked back her sobs and managed to say, "No, thank you." She paid the bill and left, heading to the house that would soon no longer be her home. When she got there, she found some gin, just the wrong amount, Not enough to make her pass out, but too much to help her figure out how to get me back. After she drank it all, it helped her fall asleep, hoping for some miracle that would bring me back to her. I was sitting in the bistro at 11 o'clock the next morning when my daughters entered. I reviewed and approved the draft divorce petition early in the morning, then drove 2 hours from Charlotte, using that time to figure out how and what to say to Kate and Emma. But first, everything was as usual, hugs and kisses. How is school? How is work? Food ordered and eaten, plates cleared, and then finally real conversation. "Dad, we know something is wrong," Emma began. "You look a little sick. Are you here to tell us you have cancer or something? And if so, where is Mom?" "Girls, yes, I have really bad news, but nothing physical. No one is going to die." "And it's Mom," Kate interrupted. "She did something terrible. Oh my God, did she run off with one of her firm's lawyers? A young, strong body that Emma or I should be chasing?" Both girls burst out laughing, taken aback by the absurdity of the idea, until they saw that their father was not laughing. "Dad, no, not Mom, no!" Emma couldn't finish her fear out loud. "Girls, listen to me carefully. Yes, Mom cheated on me, but that doesn't mean she cheated on you girls." "Yes, that's right, Daddy," Emma said through tears. "If her cheating is destroying our family, then yes, she cheated on us just as much as she cheated on you." Both girls cried, and then I started crying too. The girls stood up and tried to hug their dad and hug each other at the same time. "Dad, let's get out of here," Kate said. "There's a park about 2 blocks from here, and we'll have more privacy there." People were staring a bit, so I quickly paid the bill, and we walked into the park, a girl on each side of me, all of us holding each other. "Tell us, Dad," Kate said after we found a bench to share. "We deserve to hear how bad it is." "You know she's right," Emma intervened. "We are quite mature and can handle this." "On the way here, I was racking my brains over what to tell you," I began. "I agree you are both adults, and yes, you are right, your mother did cheat on all of us. I'm afraid I found her at home in our bed with another man, and she later admitted that there had been other men before him. I think I'm still in a bit of shock, but I know that she and I won't be able to recover from this. I've already talked to a divorce lawyer, and Mom is getting a divorce petition today." More tears, and then finally silence, as we all thought about the news and what our future would be like. "Girls, no matter how bad it is, you need to put yourselves and your schoolwork first. I have enough money to pay for your senior year here at Duke, and if either or both of you want to do graduate work, I suspect I can find some money for that too. But there is a quid pro quo here." They looked at me, wondering what I meant. "I'm happy to pay for your education, but I expect you to work hard and get good grades. Yes, what your mom did makes it difficult to concentrate on school, but you told me that you are adults, and real adults, mature, disciplined people can handle such adversity, right?" They looked at each other, cried again, and hugged me. Yes, Daddy, you are the best, and we absolutely, positively will not let you down," Emma encouraged me while Kate looked thoughtful. "Dad, Emma is right. We won't let you down. But what about you? Will you be okay? What are you going to do?" Well, you can think about a lot in a 2-hour drive. First, I want you both to know that what you said does not surprise me at all. I know you will continue to do well in school, and I will continue to be proud of you. As for me, what your mother did beat me up pretty bad. I could crawl into a hole and just, suffer, feel sorry for myself, try to find a way to make peace with your mom. But I realized that this doesn't suit me. I've spent my entire adult life caring for other people. When I started working for my dad's company, I took care of him, and then, after he passed, took care of my sisters. I took care of Lisa and you girls. It sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm really not. The company will soon be sold, and this will relieve me of responsibility for my sisters. Lisa is gone, and you guys, I promise that I will be happy to take care of you, to help you start your adult lives. So what? 2 home runs out of 3 in terms of the women in my life? Not bad at all. That leaves me, and guess what? I look at this whole story with betrayal and divorce, not as the worst thing in my life, but as a chance to start a new life, a whole new life, dedicated to caring for one person, me. Fine, Dad, really, if you really mean what you say, that's great, Emma said. Kate was a little more skeptical. Dad, what does all this really mean, new life? What work for another pharmaceutical company? Are you buying a farm? Good question, and I really have a good answer. No details yet, But this new life will be physical. I'm going to run marathons, climb mountains, swim across the Atlantic, climb the Alps, go on safari. I have a million things I'm going to do, and guess what? While I'm doing these things, I might meet a nice woman doing the same thing. And who knows? Damn it, Dad. This is amazing. Both girls looked at me with their mouths open. This was their father, not some enterprising stallion. Did you really come up with all this while driving here from Charlotte? Asked Kate. Well, yes, partly. Besides, I didn't sleep much, and different ideas were spinning in my head. I mean, I could start drinking and feeling sorry for myself, but instead, I'm going to make the best of this mess. Trust me, I'll be fine. I left my girls with more hugs and kisses and tears as I headed back to Charlotte, still in the gold Mercedes. As soon as I left, the girls called their mother on the phone. Hello? A creaky voice answered the phone in the house. Mom, this is Emma and Kate. We just had breakfast with Dad and he told us some terrible news. What? What did he say? Well, divorce was a terrible word, and the reason was your betrayal. Dad gave us a little more detail, but that's basically it. Is this true? Oh, girls, this is difficult. He and I have been married for a long time, and this mistake. Yes, I made a big mistake. Well, more than one, actually, but I'm sure we can get through it. I just need to give your father some time to... Mom, Emma interrupted. Listen, Dad said divorce. He didn't talk about fixing the error. Mom, he was talking about cheating. Well, yes, technically he's right, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it. I told him I would do anything. Mom, I think you're delusional. He told us that he had already met with a divorce lawyer. He actually said there was no turning back for you two. Emma and I don't want to take sides, but you have to understand reality. Tormented breathing on the other end of the line. Emma and Kate looked at each other. Should they have gone to Charlotte? Finally, Lisa spoke, not much louder than a whisper. I know I screwed up and ruined my marriage. I think your father hates me and he's right. I've done disgusting things. He told me to hire a lawyer and he was right about that too. I'm sorry, girls. I know it's terrible for you too. Mom, don't worry about us, Emma said. Everything will be fine with us, and I know that Dad is doing everything in his power. You need to take care of yourself. Hiring a lawyer sounds like a good idea. Kate and I can go to Charlotte if you need it. Thank you, girls. This is nice. I'll be okay. I just need some time to get used to what I did. They hung up. The girls still didn't know what to do. You know, Kate said, it's funny, although it's not funny. But we're more worried about Mom, who created all this mess, than about Dad. They talked some more, eventually deciding not to go home, but to let their parents deal with each other without their daughters interfering. Lisa sat in her home in Charlotte, a little hungover from the gin she'd drunk the night before, and more than a little depressed after talking to her daughters. She knew she had to get up, get dressed, and leave the house. Do something, she thought, as her thoughts turned to perhaps buying some more gin. The doorbell rang. Lisa opened the door. A young woman stood on the threshold. She looked like she was chewing gum. Can I help you? Lisa asked. Yes, ma'am. Are you Lisa Lawson, Jack Lawson's wife? Why, yes, it's me. Why are you asking? Ma'am, you have been served, the woman said, handing Lisa a folder with documents and taking photographs. What? Lisa asked as the woman walked back to her car. Lisa returned to the house and sat down at the kitchen table to look at the mysterious folder. When she saw the title of the first document, she almost fainted. A petition for divorce. She remembered my last words to her. Get a lawyer. As she sat there looking at the familiar kitchen she had enjoyed with me, she knew the happy days wouldn't come back after what she had done. Lisa was right. She and I did not return after her betrayal. 6 years later, sitting in the ballroom of an expensive hotel and watching Kate dance with her new husband, Lisa mentally plunged into the past. When the girls were teenagers, she thought life was terrible. Too many activities, too much teenage angst because too many boys were either too mean, or from Lisa's point of view, too nice to the girls. I was too busy with my job, and lawyers were too boring. Life had been overwhelming then, but now she missed it terribly. She was still working at the same law firm, doing the same boring paperwork she dreamed of escaping. Lisa, here is your wine. Lisa looked at her beau, the perfectly sweet, middle-aged, paunchy, balding lawyer who had escorted her to Kate's wedding and reception. The bride looks lovely, just like her mother. Thank you, Carl. You're sweet. And thanks for the wine. He was a sweet man, and she could imagine marrying him if he was interested, but he definitely wasn't me. She couldn't help but look across the room at me. I had just returned from a mountaineering trip to Nepal, and Lisa thought I looked like one of those bronze Greek god statues, tanned, incredibly fit, even more handsome than she remembered. Right now, I was smiling and laughing with Emma and her boyfriend, holding hands with a woman as beautiful and as fit as me. Emma told her that I had met the woman on another mountaineering trip somewhere in South America, and they had been traveling, sailing, and climbing together for several months. Lisa felt sick just thinking about it. Lisa, Carl tried to attract her attention. Yes, Carl? Lisa, I think we should leave. You fulfilled your duties as mother of the bride, and staying here drooling over your ex-husband isn't doing you any favors. And I dare say, this is not very good for the relationship we have. Carl, you're sweet, and you're absolutely right. Let me go say goodbye to my daughters, and we'll be out of here. Lisa hugged and kissed her daughters, wished the newlyweds all the best, and as hard as it was for her, ignored me and my new girlfriend. I actually saw Lisa as she left the hall and felt a slight pang of sadness for our old times together. While I was watching her, Emma asked me a question. Sorry, Emma, what were you saying? Daddy, remember that strange-looking gold Mercedes you were driving when you, Kate, and I had breakfast that morning when you came to visit us at Duke? What happened to that car? Ah, Emma, that's a whole story that I won't bore you with. Let me just say that I borrowed this weird gold Mercedes from a friend and ended up giving it back to her. I think she sold it. It was truly an unlucky car. And I turned to my friend to talk about our next trip to the mountains.